Once upon a time, there's a village called Unsu. The people of Unsu were known for their vibrant festival, colorful attire, and deep rooted traditions. Among them lived a woman named Adaku, a midwife who was reverend by day but feared by night. Adaku was a woman of striking beauty, with her skin the color of rich mahogany, her eyes that shimmered like the stars on a clear night. She had a gentle touch that could soothe the cry of a newborn, and a voice that could calm the fear of a laboring mother. Many women in Unsu honed their lives and the lives of their children to her skillful hands. Yet, unknown to all, Adaku harbored a dark secret. Adaku's true nature emerged. She was not merely a midwife. She was a shape-shifting demon who roamed the village in search of souls to devour. By day, she brought life into the world, but by night, she caused chaos and despair. The origin of Adaku's curse was as mysterious as the woman herself. Some whispered that she had made a pact with the dark forces to gain extraordinary skills. Others believed she was possessed by an ancient spirit, seeking vengeance for a forgotten wrong. Whatever the truth, Adaku's dual existence had persisted for decades, undetected by the villagers she both served and preyed upon. Strange things started happening. Animals were found dead in their pens. People saw shadows moving around at night. They heard faint laughter that was scary. These were signs that something bad was going to happen. One fateful night, a young man named Chima was returning home after a late night visit to a neighboring village. He had been courting a young woman named Ifoma, and their conversation often stretched long into the night. As he walked through the forest path leading to Unsu, he felt an unsettling presence. The atmosphere grew colder. Chima quickened his pace, his heart pounding in his chest. Suddenly, he heard a rustling in the bushes beside him, peering into the darkness, but saw nothing. Just as he was about to resume his walk, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Adaku, but not as Chima had ever seen. Her eyes glowed with a strange red light, and her teeth were sharp and gleaming. She moved with an unnatural grace, her feet barely touching the ground. Chima's leg turned to lead as he tried to flee, but it was too late. Adaku's laugh echoed through the trees as she lunged at him. The next morning, Chima's body was found by a group of hunters. His face was frozen in a mask of terror, and his lifeless eyes stared up at the sky. The villagers were horrified. They had seen wild animals attack before, but this was different. There was no clear marks or bites, only a deep, unexplainable wound over his heart. As fear spread through Unsu, Adaku continued her dual life. By day, she delivered babies and healed the sick. She wept with those that are weeping and offered comfort to the frightened. Her reputation as a village savior only grew, even with her dual life. Months passed, and the incidents became more frequent and brutal. Men, women, and children began to disappear without a trace. The villagers grew desperate, seeking help from diviners and priests. But no one could identify the source of the evil plaguing Unsu. The only clue was a recurring theme in the victims' final moment. Each had seen a woman with glowing red eyes just before their dismiss. One day, a group of elders gathered in the village square to discuss the crisis. Okeke, the oldest and wisest among them, spoke. "We must find the demon that haunts our nights," he said. "It wears the guise of a human and walks among us. But we must tread carefully. We cannot accuse without proof, for the consequences will be there." Among those listening was Ife, a young woman whose sharp mind and keen sense were well known. She had always admired Adaku, who had helped deliver her younger siblings and had been a comforting presence during her mother's illness. But the recent event had sown seed of doubt in her mind. Determined to uncover the truth, Ify devised a plan. That night, she concealed herself in a thicket near Adaku's home. The midwife lived alone in a modest hut at the edge of the village, surrounded by a garden of medical herbs. As the hours passed and the moon rose high, Ify watched as Adaku stepped out into the night. She followed silently, her heart pounding. Adaku moved swiftly and purposefully, her form shifting and blurring at the edge. Ify's eyes widened as she saw the midwife transform into a fearsome creature, her beauty replaced by a monstrous visage. She watched in horror as Adaku searched through the village, her eyes searching for her next victim. Ify's mind raced. She had to warn the others, but how could she convince them of such an unbelievable truth? She decided to gather more evidence. Over the few weeks, she continued a nightly vigil, documenting Adaku's transformations and the consequent disappearance. She even managed to sketch the demonic form she witnessed, though the sight of it filled her with dread. Finally, armed with her evidence, Ify approached the elders. She presented her findings, her voice steady but urgent. Adaku is a demon, she declared. I have seen her transform with my own eyes. We must act before more lives are lost. The elders were stunned into silence. They had always trusted Adaku, and the thought of her being the source of their suffering was almost too much to bear. But Ify's evidence was compelling. Okeke, after a long pause, nodded. We cannot ignore this, he said, but we must be conscious. If we confront her directly, we risk provoking her wrath. A plan was devised to trap Adaku in her demonic form and expose her to the village. The next full moon, the villagers would gather in the square under the pretense of prayers for protection. Meanwhile, a group of brave men and women, including Ify, would lay in wait near Adaku's hut, ready to strike when she transformed. The night of the full moon arrived, and the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. The villagers prayed and sang, their voices rising to the heavens. As the moon reached its zenith, Adaku emerged from her hut, her eyes already beginning to glow. Ify and the others watched, their hearts pounding as the midwife form twisted and changed. Just as Adaku was about to set off on a nightly hunt, the group sprang into action. They surrounded her, holding up mirrors and torches, hoping to catch her off guard. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to like, share, and leave me a comment in the comment section. I hope to see you on my next video. Bye bye for now.